It's an honor to be here this evening. I'd like to thank Principal Abbott, the faculty, and the class of 2019 for inviting me to speak to you all. I'll try to keep it brief, but I'll also try to leave you with something that is meaningful and impactful. It's probably best to let you all know how I got here this evening. 6 weeks ago, I had a text message that says, "Hey, Dennis, I'd like to talk to you." And that generally means that someone wants a donation. And so I said, "Listen, we do pasta night at our house every Monday night. Friends and family are involved. Why don't you show up and tell me what it is that you need?" So he shows up and he says, "What are you doing May 29th? I said, "Why don't you tell me why you're asking first?" And he says, "Well, it's our graduation, and we really want Tillman Fertitta to be the guest speaker, but we know he's going to turn us down. So are you free?" I said, "Sure." So Frank Fischera, I hope I don't let you down. So when I was preparing for tonight, I realized that I don't remember who the guest speaker was at my high school graduation or my college graduation. So, as I'm sure most of you have done throughout your high school career, I got on Google and I Googled commencement speeches. And I found which commencement speeches made me stay in front of the computer screen and listen to them. And so with that said, I hope I do a better job than those guest speakers at both my high school and my graduation at LSU this evening, and I'll leave you with something impactful. My mother and father were both graduates of O'Connell High School. My father was actually in the 1969 graduating class, which was the first class that Ursuline, Dominican, and Kerwin at the time came together under the O'Connell umbrella. So although I didn't attend this school, I have deep roots in this school through my mother and my father. In an effort to make this speech easier on me and rewarding for you all, I've decided to tell a story. It ought to be easy for me. It's my story, and it'll have 3 chapters: my childhood, my college, and my career. And I hope that you'll find a common theme through each one that upon its conclusion you can take with you after this and possibly lead in the same direction. My mother was a 5th grade teacher of nearly 40 years. She's still a substitute teacher. My father spent 20 years as a union forklift driver and 20 years as a worker for Galveston County, both of whom are here this evening. My mother's actually presenting an award to one of you all for a scholarship. My mother and father were hard workers. They went to work early. They came home late. At the age of 11, roughly the 4th grade more or less, my father lost that job as a union forklift driver. That August, when it was time to return to school, typical of any other school year, we would get a school supply list from the teacher, and then my mother and I would go to Kmart and we would buy that list of items. And then she would take me over to what was the Galvez Mall, which is now Home Depot, and we would buy a new pair of shoes. It didn't happen that year. I didn't question it, but I knew that something was different. That year was the beginning of what was the Air Jordan shoe era, and I really wanted that pair of Air Jordans. Couldn't get them. So I went to the florist near my house, and I asked her, "Mrs. Micheletti, is there any work that I could do here to earn money?" And she says, "Absolutely." She had a stack of buckets that were from the floor to the ceiling of her garage, and she says, "I'll pay you 10 cents for each bucket that you wash." And so I began to wash buckets immediately. When I got home and I looked at the Converse shoes that I was wearing that day, they looked like they were tie-dye, because they were covered in bleach. It was hard work. My hands smelled like bleach for days, but I earned enough money to buy those Air Jordans. In the 5th and 6th grade, I bought Sour Patch straws in bulk, and I sold them individually. From the 7th grade to my graduation year, I cut grass. Much harder work than the buckets and the candy, but the pay was better as well. I graduated high school in 1998. I know that I don't look it. It's my oily forehead keeps my skin good. Shortly after I graduated, the Spot restaurant was opening here on Seawall Boulevard. I had become good friends with the Dusich family, who were the founders and the developers of that property. And I asked them if they would allow me an opportunity to work there. They're very good to me. Allow me to work as many hours as I wanted to work to earn money for college, and I wanted to work a lot of hours. I'll never forget the day that Marion Dusich walked up behind me as I was cleaning the table in the room. He gently put his hand on my shoulder. He asked the guests to stand up, and he says, "I need to show this young man how to properly clean a table. If he doesn't know how to clean the salt and pepper shakers, he's not going to be able to pay his way through college." What he showed me that day was to always work hard, even when no one was looking. My senior year of high school, in that summer, I applied to LSU. I was denied 3 times because of my SAT scores. So I wrote a letter to the Dean of Admissions, and I got straight to the point. I wrote, "I'll work harder than any of my peers, and I won't let you down." Shortly thereafter, I received my acceptance letter into LSU. My first semester was rough. Second wasn't that much better. I scheduled my classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I drove home so I could work at the Spot Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I never missed a class. I was never late to a class. I spent my time on campus studying. I worked hard at school, even when no one was watching. Many will tell you that the college will be the best years of your life. Between work and study in my first 2 years, I didn't experience that. However, something was about to change. I studied international trade and finance, Arabic as a foreign language. My professor, Coach Hatem, was a former Olympian and assistant track and field coach. He asked me one day if I would be interested in working on the track and field team. I told him, honestly, that I knew the job only paid $6.25 an hour, and most of the people that were applying for that job only wanted it so they can put it on their resume. Unfortunately, I was paying my way through college, and so I'd have to respectfully decline. A week later, Coach Hatem pulls me aside again, and he tells me he wants to introduce me to the head track and field coach at LSU. LSU's track and field program at that time, and still to this day, is one of the most successful and dominant NCAA programs in collegiate history. There's no way that I was going to pass up an opportunity to meet the head coach of this prestigious program. He says, "Meet me on the track, 4 o'clock, look for Coach Henry. He'd be a man out there in a yellow hat." So here I am at 3:50 on the track, and I'm looking for the man in the yellow hat. And what do you know? Every man and woman and child on that track that day were wearing a yellow hat. I end up in Coach Henry's office, a very serious man and rather intimidating. And he asked me what I knew about track, and I answered honestly. I said, "Coach, I don't know the first thing about track, but I know about hard work. If you give me an opportunity to work for you, I'd like to go out there and work for you for 1 week. I'll come back in 1 week, I'll sit right back in this chair, and you can evaluate my performance." We agreed. He shook my hand. Took the elevator downstairs and went straight to the track. For the next week, I ensured that I arrived on that track before he arrived at his office. I ensured that I left that track after he left his office. And I knew when he arrived because his office overlooked the track. And it wouldn't be a coincidence that the only work that I found was outside. That way he could see what I was doing. A week later, and there I am in the same seat as I was a week before. And Coach Henry looks right at me. And I don't know what to expect. "Well, you weren't kidding. You work hard. And I'd like to offer you a scholarship." I didn't know what that meant, and I didn't ask. I stood up, I shook his hand, I said, "Thank you, and I won't let you down." Walked out of that office and went straight to the track so I could prove my worth. When my tuition came due that semester, I got a bill for $0. When my books needed to be paid for, I got a bill for $0. They were both covered under my scholarship. The following semester, Coach Henry added a meal plan and a per diem, in addition to my tuition and books. And all of this was earned by simply working hard. Upon graduating, the Spot restaurant was available for lease. I asked the founders, Marin and Diane Dusick, if they would offer me and allow me the opportunity to take over this restaurant. They told me no 3 times. Sort of reminded me of the Dean of Admissions at LSU. They reluctantly said yes on the 4th time. I had $10,000 in my bank account from an interest-free student loan from Frost Bank. I only had to pay $35 a month while I was in school and $100 a month after graduation. I never forget signing the first check for my first month's rent, $88.25.49. I had roughly $1,100 left. Had I told the bank what I was doing with their money, I'd probably be in big trouble. At the time, that restaurant was losing $1,000 a day. The kitchen was a cluttered mess of equipment that didn't work. Almost every air conditioner was broken, and more than half of the menu board was covered with paper because the manager simply didn't want to order product. I worked the next 4.5 years without a day off. For 7 years, I lived above the restaurant in what was an office. I reinvested every dollar of profit to improve the product and the property to best serve our guests. As I grew that business, I missed weddings, funerals, holidays, lost relationships. It was a lot of hard work over a long period of time, but I don't regret it one bit. We have since taken the Spot from a small 100-seat restaurant that was losing $1,000 a day to a 600-seat dining and entertainment complex that serves upwards of 750,000 guests per year. We've opened a hotel, have a second hotel under construction, and by the end of the year, we'll employ nearly 400 people in this market. We're looking now at our growth plan over the next 10 years and how we can make it better than the last 10. Looking back on my life, I found one common denominator: hard work. I've got 3 young children at home, and I tell them every day, the harder you work, the luckier you get. I truly believe that. Class of 2019, you're moments away from graduating. I encourage you to work hard at everything that you do. Take it from me, an average person, an average student. The only thing I've done in my life is commit to working harder than any of my peers, and I hope that you commit to doing the same.